Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to the Temple Institute Parsha class. My name is Gedalia Meyer, and I'm podcasting from Ma'ale Adumim in Israel. One of the more reassuring feelings that life allows us is that of security. We all crave this sense of protection in whatever form it appears. It could be the walls of the place we live in, or the fact that we have enough food to last several days in store. It could be the money we have in the bank, or the degree we possess, attesting to our ability to accomplish something. Security tends to take the form of stability, but it could also extend to many situations of uncertainty. It is, more than anything else, our sense that we are okay, at least for the moment. We have probably treasured this feeling since we were first able to treasure feelings. While there is likely some sense of security in animals, it is difficult to know if an animal feels something personal in whatever feelings of security they might have. It is probably more of a biological result, slowing down the heart, letting down of the guard, relaxing to whatever degree possible from the survival of the fittest world of the animal kingdom. With people, it takes on a dimension that is infinitely more than the instinctive sense the animals possess. There is a certain existential quality about our feeling of security, like we have somehow earned the right to be here in the universe. It is our passport to continuity and being. We first develop this sense before we are born. Though it is not easy to ascertain how much a fetus really thinks, there is little question that the experience in the womb instills an almost cosmic feeling of safety. That is all a fetus really experiences. When a baby is born and emerges as a semi-independent human being, it is cleansed, wrapped in a blanket, and fed. It spends most of its first few months asleep, knowing to whatever degree it knows things that it will be taken care of. This condition remains for years in a normal, healthy childhood, with the child having the very human right to expect that the things that he or she needs will be provided. It is only with the teenage years and the first real signs of independence from parents that the first feelings of insecurity really creep in. This is when those older than children but younger than adults people feel their frequently overwhelming feelings of being unprotected in the wild and cruel world. It is not unusual that a teenager has no idea what to do with these feelings, and the result could be devastating. All those changes teens go through in a matter of a few years would set anybody off on a whirlwind of despair and confusion. How teens make it through this is a bit of a minor miracle. There is little question that the sense of security their parents and others shower them with is both a figurative and very real lifeline. But it is when we become adults that our true vulnerability to life's whims becomes apparent. When we sense our own mortality or our lack of financial security or the fact that we really don't know what the world will be like even 5 years from now, we experience something that should evoke feelings of terror and sometimes do. But for most of us, we ride through the uncertainty with the sense that things will somehow work out for better or worse. As we gain the wisdom that life will not give us everything we wish for, we understand that security is not limited to a nest egg in the bank or a clean bill of health. It can manifest in something as basic as knowing that one is alive. The most familiar form of security, and certainly the classic manifestation, comes with belief in God. There is nothing quite like knowing that God, who controls all of reality, is looking out for little old me. While this feeling has been challenged throughout the ages as immature and imaginary, it is still there in many people, perhaps most, despite the fact that God is no longer believed to be needed for the existence of the universe or the creation of life. Many people no longer think that God guides them along their path in life, but they still secretly hope that there is some power greater than nature that is making sure things turn out okay. God is the classic religious form of security, but as the old saying goes, there are no atheists in a foxhole. This week's Parsha is called Haazinu. That word is a bit strange. It is the opening to the longest poem in the Torah. It means something like, give your ear, which is a poetic way of saying, listen. The subject of this demand is not the Israelites, as we might expect, but the heavens and the earth. Those two representatives of the permanence of reality are called to attention to hear the words of this poem. It tells nothing more and nothing less than the story of humanity through the eyes of the Israelites. It is a 5-part poem, with each part projecting some element of the fate of the Israelites. After 2 introductory verses, the first part asserts the belief in God as the righteous guide of the world. The second part focuses on the origins of the Israelites as a people who were chosen for a special place in God's world, who would both benefit and suffer for their unique relationship with God. The third part zeroes in on the hazards of that relationship, that disregarding it or pretending that it isn't real will result in disasters and suffering of the worst sort. The fourth part stresses the role of the other nations of the world, a factor that is rarely emphasized in the Torah but takes up a good deal of the books of the prophets. Much of this section clarifies both the reason these nations will be able to inflict suffering on the Israelites and their own misunderstanding of what is really happening. This leads to the 5th section, which is the final vengeance of Hashem and the ultimate triumph of the Israelites. Perhaps surprisingly, much of this poem is rather depressing. It doesn't really present an encouraging picture of the future, even though it ends on a fairly high note. The problem is that even with God's ultimate display of divinity, there is a vague sense that none of this will come easily, like a walk in the park. The final line of the poem reads, quote, "Sing and joy, nations, of his people, for he will avenge the blood of his servants and will take vengeance on his enemies, and his people will have atoned for his ground." There will be some sort of ultimate victory, but it will come through blood and vengeance. This is the best the Torah can do to assure the Israelites that things will work out in the end. There is no sugarcoating the treacherous road to get there. It happens that in addition to the regular Parsha, there is another event on the ever-changing Jewish horizon in the coming week. This, of course, is the holiday of Sukkot, which begins this coming Monday night and lasts for 8 days. Sukkot has always been looked upon in Judaism as a kind of time to take a breather. It comes immediately after the tension of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and it ends before the onset of winter. It is a time to be outdoors in pleasant weather, relaxing in the less restrictive walls of the prime element of the holiday, the sukkah, which is a kind of shelter that deliberately does not have the same measure of protection that a permanent house does. This is the whole point of Sukkot, to drop that artificial veil of security and to try to acclimate to the security that comes from reliance upon God. The basic guidelines of Sukkot is that all the meals and certain other primary activities should be done within the confines of the sukkah. In actual practice, the sukkah is usually a porch or an open area covered with a non-waterproof roof made of natural products like wood or bamboo. It is a requirement that one should be able to see the stars through the roof, or at least be aware that the partition separating those inside from the heavens is not as sturdy as a genuine roof. The walls don't matter so much, and many people find a way to build a sukkah inside the walls of their house. The main thing is the lack of a real roof over one's head. Everything else is really decoration. In addition to the sukkah, the other feature the Torah emphasizes about Sukkot is the taking of certain species of foliage. There are 4 of these, and their identity has been firmly established through thousands of years of Jewish tradition. The 4 are a lemon-like fruit called an etrog, a frond from a date palm, a myrtle branch, and a shoot from a willow tree. These are classically brought together each day of the holiday and held in one's hands as a kind of celebration of nature. They are not meant to bring any sense of security as much as a feeling that life is good and we have what we need. The general idea of this holiday, as exemplified through the sukkah, is that we really shouldn't rely on the firmness of our houses for security and protection. As strong as they may be, they are nothing against the forces of reality that could blow those walls down with one hand tied behind their back. The only real security we have is from God. This much is agreed upon unanimously in Jewish circles. The sukkah is meant to be somewhat flimsy and unprotective, even if it is a pleasant way to spend much of the week of Sukkot. But a question can be asked on this traditional picture of this biblical celebration of the harvest. If the end goal of all of this is to instill the sense that our only true security comes from God, Why do we need the sukkah at all? Wouldn't this feeling be stronger if we didn't have any roof over our heads, no matter how leaky the sukkah roof might be? This seems to be almost a contradiction in terms. If we were really serious about this claim that all of our security comes from God, we shouldn't rely on anything man-made, even a temporary shelter like a sukkah. The answer to this question is fairly obvious. We are human beings. We have human feelings which we inherited from our biological past, our collective cultural history, and our individual personalities. All of these demand some sense of protection that is real and not pie in the sky. Our true reality might reveal our complete vulnerability to forces infinitely greater than us, but we still need to know that we have a roof over our heads. This much is required as human beings who are rooted in the earth and have some sense of the danger perpetually surrounding us. We need to feel protected, even if that protection cannot really do much. Security is ultimately out of our hands. If we choose to recognize that it really comes from a higher power, we are able to take some of the burden off of ourselves and place it in the divine but demanding hands of God. But we still need to know that there is something keeping us solidly anchored in reality, and that is where this sukkah enters the picture. It is protection, but in the bare bones manner, reflecting our ultimate reliance on God. Shabbat Shalom and Chag Sukkot Sameach.